Hey friends, today I want to talk about journaling. So, journaling is a really important part of my life, honestly, not just my creativity and work, but just it's a really sort of become a pillar of how I navigate my way through the day and through the weeks. And I want to talk a little bit about sort of why it's particularly powerful and useful as a practice develop, and some of the ways that I've incorporated it into my own routine over the years. So, firstly, I think when most of us when we think about journaling, we think about this somebody sitting in their bedroom writing in a handwritten journal sort of every single night, or maybe that's what comes to mind. Maybe it's not, but I think it's important to note journaling doesn't have to be a daily habit. Even once a week can really go a long way. So, if it's something that's been difficult to maintain as a habit, try to think about what's sort of a reasonable frequency that would work for you. I think what I find it most valuable is to maintain over a long period of time, because then you start to, your brain and mind and body honestly just sort of gets used to this process of reflection and release. I'd encourage you to, if you've been struggling with the habit before, like I have. I've dropped the habit in the past. It's always room to, as the Buddhist saying goes, begin again, and it's just a fresh page and come back to it. In terms of the biggest benefits that I've found, obviously the one that's really valuable is sometimes when I'm just really feeling overwhelmed. There's just a lot going on. Just sitting down and just writing, whatever comes to mind and just letting it all out is so helpful. It's a release of this burden, that you're kind of holding up. And I think that sometimes we underrate how effective that can be to improving our sort of peace of mind and mood, and even our ability to focus on anything because we've just got so much in our head. The other thing I think it's worth noting is sometimes just writing something down and then reading it changes your perception of it. So, previously you may have had this like repeating cycle of thought, and then you write it down and you kind of actually just read it as text, and you're like, maybe your impression of it changes. Maybe it's not as dramatic, or it's not just about it, not being as big of a deal. It's also about maybe a different view of it comes to mind, or a path forward comes to mind that wouldn't have been there just from thinking about it. But the most powerful reason, I think, is just that a lot of these surface level thoughts sort of take up real estate in our minds. And, the more you can do to sort of expunge them and get them out, the more room there is for other serendipitous creative ideas to show up. So, creativity can be harnessed in a lot of different ways, but honestly, you want more space, emptiness for them to grow, because you can't really force them, but you can just create the space that allows them. And that's definitely what I've found is, like, if my mind is just busy holding and keeping track of everything that's going on, there's just not that much room for my mind to wander and go and look at other things. So, that's a really important aspect. Even if you're not looking at creative ideas, even not in the sense of like creating as writing or drawing or whatever, but just in your life, coming up with creative solutions for your own life, how to navigate your job, your family situation. Sometimes just getting some clarity and some emptiness will create room for that. I think there's certain practices that you can do as part of journaling, which I'll talk about what I do. But gratitude journaling is a really important component for many people, and it just taking a moment to just force yourself to kind of be like, what am I grateful for? And when you're in a terrible mood, it can feel like nothing. I'm not grateful for anything. But and then you kind of like, well, sometimes I'll be journaling and it'll just be like, well, I'm grateful for this cat, my cats. I mean, there they are. Like, yeah, you know what? That is really, I love them. So sometimes just putting yourself in a position to be like, yeah, things there's at least that can be really helpful. So, once you kind of have some baseline level of motivation, there's a number of different ways to approach journaling. Um, I'll talk about my own journey. So, there were times where I was doing handwritten journals. I have, I guess, like many people, a lot of these notebooks that we've either bought or we got at a conference or something like that, and I would start journaling in them, and it felt really nice. There's something about handwriting that is a little bit more intimate, and you kind of feel a little bit more separate from everything else. But for whatever reason, I struggled to maintain a journaling habit with a handwritten journal. Well, I shouldn't say for whatever reason. I think I know why. And the reason is I just don't write by hand very much. I'm typing everything. I've also, my background is in programming, so I'm a particularly pretty fast typer. So I can get my thoughts down really quick if I'm typing them, but handwriting just feels slow, and it just feels like such a dramatic shift that I was never really able to maintain a long-term habit with journaling using a handwritten journal. So then that came to, okay, well, if I'm going to be journaling, what are some of the apps and pieces of software I want to use? And I've had a lot of different experiences with note taking over the last few years as I've been writing and creating more. I've used different note taking apps from Roam to Obsidian and mostly Bear, which is my primary creative writing app. And over time, what I found was that I was like, well, I'm already writing notes in this kind of on a daily basis, so might as well just journal here. And it was pretty convenient, where I would just sort of add a few notes here and there. It was a place I kind of already was, and so it was easy to just extend into journaling. But I found that there was a problem with that for me. And my problem with it was, when you're taking notes and you're inside this sort of big graph of your notes and there's all these different ideas and stuff like that, it doesn't really feel like a very focused experience. And I also felt kind of strange writing really intimate personal details in this piece of software where it's not even that it was necessarily uploaded to the cloud. I'm not oh, people are someone who works at this company might read it. I mean, that's a valid concern, but it was more just it just didn't feel like the right tool for that kind of personal, intimate reflection. And I kind of thought maybe I'm overthinking this, and I tweeted about this, and a bunch of other people kind of resonated. But there was this app called Day One, which is just a journaling app. That's literally the only thing it does. And I looked at it and I realized I had actually used it years ago, and I had journaled quite often with it, and I'm pretty sure I stopped when I started using note taking. And so in December of 2021, so a little over 6 months ago, I just resumed using that, and I've been journaling consistently, maybe 3 times a week, maybe more, maybe somewhere around 3 to 5 times a week with that app for about 6 months, which is the longest I've consistently journaled, I think, ever. So, I mean, I've taken lots of notes and did journaling in notes, but I mean I'm literally just going to journal for the next, 30 minutes, and it's just going to be a very private thing. So I do think, tools matter. They really do affect the kind of things that you say. I noticed the tone of voice that I use in journals with my Focus Journal app is very different than the tone of voice that I use when I'm doing in a note-taking app. Because in the note-taking app, it's very oh yeah, well, what did we learn from this? And it's kind of felt very analytical, whereas in the journaling, it felt very much like I was having a raw conversation with myself. And I think you could still, one of the advantages of doing it in the note-taking app is you can have make more connections probably with your insights and things like that. And if that's something that you're interested in, I think that could work really well. For me, it was more I just wanted to really have that practice of having a very honest conversation with myself about what the heck is going on, no holds barred, right? And so, I think that's one thing I would note is you want to get to a point where your journals feel like you are learning to reflect and talk and spend time with yourself just in this sort of written way, and you'll feel sort of heard by yourself, and you can start to notice patterns, over time as well. So let's talk about prompts. I think obviously just there's a practice called morning pages where in the morning you just come in and you just write whatever comes to mind, and I think that is what I usually try and do with journaling, is just sort of open. But I also, at the end of the entry, I have a set of prompts, like a template that I use. I actually have like a keyboard shortcut where I type like 3 characters and it just pastes the questions for me to fill in. I really like that. So that's another like advantage of using software for this on your computer or iPad. For the keyboard shortcuts, I use this app called Alfred, but there's lots of other apps like this, Keyboard Maestro, or I think Shortcuts also you could use for this, the Apple software. But putting that aside, the questions, I think I would start with just a simple and basic questions, and there's lots of different prompts. So I'll share mine in case they're helpful. The first question is always one thing to be grateful for. Sometimes it's the easiest question, sometimes it's the hardest question, but I think your mind sort of starts to shift when if every day or every other day you're asking yourself, what are you grateful for about your life? Because it's easy, especially journaling, sometimes you just focus on like all the things you're upset about and all the things that are frustrating you, which is fine. You want to let that out, but you also want to end maybe in a more positive note if you can, or a more or a different light. So that's question one. And then I ask myself kind of like a 2-part question of what drained my energy and what fueled my energy. So, I recorded another video a while back. I'll link to it in the description, about managing your energy and not your time. It's something I think about a lot, where there's certain activities which can last like a few minutes and you just feel completely drained because you just really didn't want to be doing that, and it just made you feel overwhelmed or stressed or just, and it really drained your energy quickly. Whereas something else you could have been doing for hours and hours, and you ended up being more energized afterwards, right? And so it's really valuable to pay attention to those, take note of those, and in that way, it doesn't necessarily mean like I'll never do that again or I'll always do that. It's just kind of like noticing what are your personal, energy influences in your life, and how can you start to pay attention to patterns of that. And one thing I've started to do is I have like one note, a pinned note, a pinned entry in my journal app, and it's just like about me, kind of. It's like an about page, and every so often when I notice a real pattern, I like put it in there, and I'm like, does this feel like this is true about me? And I'm like, yeah, I think that is true. And slowly I have these like little tendencies of Salman. Sometimes they kind of feel inaccurate, and so I won't put them, but other times I'll be like, yeah, I think that's true. And we change over time, so if it's something you want to change, it's worth noting, because you can't really change anything if you don't notice it. Right? Like you can't really change yourself if you don't constantly notice evidence of that aspect of yourself. I think that's kind of one of the biggest challenges, is like, it's not that people don't want to change for the better, they have a lot of blind spots. And so it can be also useful in your journaling to talk about things other people have said, or things other people noticed, or things you noticed about how other people behave. Because, it's kind of a loose construction. We have a very loose construction of ourselves. I think I read a quote or a line once where, we're not who we think we are. We're not even who other people think we are. We are what we think other people think we are. So it's kind of like you're basically like piecing together little snippets of yourself based on what other people say. And so journaling and reflection and personal conversation is a way to like elevate that discourse about yourself and make it a little bit more grounded in truth and evidence that's built over time, rather than like someone says one thing to you this week and suddenly your perception of yourself drastically changes and you're this person or that person. So that's kind of the third thing in my prompt, is like, what's one thing I notice about myself? I actually really struggle with this question most of the time. I'm kind of like, I don't know, what did I notice? But even just forcing yourself, at least in my case, I found it's useful, because then I can be like, is there a pattern this week? Or did something happen? Actually, this is the one that is most useful, I think. Is like, maybe I should tweak the question, but it's like, what did you notice about yourself that was surprising? So it's not just like, what did you notice about yourself? It's more like, I had this interaction and actually felt this way, but I thought I would feel this way based on my understanding of myself. I thought it would be this, but actually it was like this. Just kind of new information about me, and that's useful because, going back to the blind spots, like it's usually not like new. It's just that you just didn't really notice it, and yeah. Anyway, I think that's really cool. I think it's like this superpower that you can have, where you actually have this, basically you're building self-awareness over time. So of course, meditation and mindfulness, they're good practices that help you get into the mindset of noticing your thoughts, right? And then journaling can kind of be like the funnel, where you kind of come in and you're like, okay, well, here are the things I notice. Here's kind of how it feels. But it doesn't have to be so productive, so analytical. You don't have to be constantly working on yourself and improving yourself. It can just be, I just sat down and did some stuff, wrote down some stuff about what's going on. That's it. I just feel better. I do also sketch now. So I'm working on this book, and there's illustrations for it, and I've been drawing for a little while, but I try to get as much practice as I can. And so sometimes what I'll do is, either as a warm-up to the journal or after the journal, I'll just sketch a bunch of things. There's no goal, it's just sketching a bunch of things, and I'll attach them to the journal. And I'm not like sketch noting, I'm not like trying to show some concept, nothing. It's just random things that are just there, and I let them, and I look at it, and sometimes I look at it, and it's not that much difference between some random animal or scene that I draw and something I write about. They're both just things that are here that I just want to put down and be like, okay, you're there now. So maybe for you it could be, it could be like an improv music session, or it could be so you kind of using clay and molding something together, or I think there's different ways to just take what's in you and just put it somewhere and get it out, and not think of it as like a producing activity. Just give yourself a chance to release and like breathe out without having to necessarily have it be a performative measured thing. So I think that's kind of what I wanted to say about journaling. Highly recommend it. I think it'll be a great practice. I'd love to know, what are some of your favorite prompt questions or habits, or what has been some of the struggles as you've been trying to journal. Wishing you well. Hope you're able to get some time to listen to yourself, take some time to capture those thoughts. Thanks for watching, and see you next time.